Welcome back. Now that we've cleaned the data and prepared it for analyses, it's time to calculate the average. It turns out that Excel provides many different ways to calculate averages. I'll show you a couple of them. At the end, I'll show you how to use the most flexible way with pivot tables and charts. We'd like to calculate the average of these two columns, the total turnaround time and the repair turnaround time. Let's try the total turnaround time first. So I'll click here at the top of the data and use the keyboard commands Shift and down. Select all of the data and look down here at the bottom. Excel shows us that the average is 13.544, the count is 1,000 rows of data, and the sum is 13,544. If you just need to know the average and don't need to use it in further analyses, you're done. To put the average in a cell, let's move down one row. Now from the Home menu tab, click on the icon AutoSum right up here. Use the pull down to the right and choose Average. Excel tells you that it's going to calculate the average of L2 to L1001, all of the data above it. So let's press Enter to return, and there's our average, 13.544 again. Now let's do it again for the repair turnaround time. Click on this cell at the bottom of the column, use AutoSum, Average. And the average is 2.584 workdays. AutoSum works for the entire column of data, but what if I want to calculate averages for a subset? For example, for the laser printers and then for the inkjet printers to compare them. So let's delete these last two entries. Now be sure to click somewhere up in the data, in any cell within the data, and now we're going to turn it into an Excel table. Use Ctrl A to select all of the data. Click on the icon Format as Table and choose a pattern you like. I like this one. Be sure that Excel has clicked on here, My Table Has Headers, and click on OK. Now make sure you're in the menu path Table Tools Design, and then click on Total Row. If we move to the right, we'll see that Excel calculates the sum of the rightmost column and puts it at the bottom of the data here. This is the sum of the total turnaround time. If we click on the cell, we can see that a pull down appears, and let's choose Average. And there we go. And then to get the average of the repair turnaround time, click on the cell in the total row, use the pull down, and Average. Now, so what's the difference between this and the AutoSum? Here's the advantage. I'll click on Printer Type and choose Laser. And now we have the averages for the LaserJet printers only. 2.48 for the repair turnaround time and 13.34 days for the total turnaround time. And if I want to see it for inkjet printers, there we go, 2.65 for the repair turnaround time and about 14.06 for the total turnaround time. So it's easy to get the averages for the different subgroups, but at the same time it's hard to compare them. I have to do them one at a time. So let's go one step further. Let's make a pivot table. Before making the pivot table though, let's remove the filter and position the cursor at the top of the data. It's a good practice to remove filters so that when we return to the worksheet, we can see everything in one place. So to remove all filters, use the menu path Data and the icon Clear Filters. I'll scroll up to the top of the data and go back to the Table Tools Design menu. While still in the menu path for Table Tools Design, click on the icon Summarize with Pivot Table. Follow the defaults to put the pivot table on a new worksheet. Excel shows a blank pivot table. Let's start by calculating the average total turnaround time. From the field list over here on the right, click on the field Total Turnaround Time and drag it down to the Values section. By default, Excel calculates the sum of the total turnaround time, not what we want. So in the field selection, click on the pull down, choose Value Field Settings, and choose Average. Calculates the average 13.544 days. Now let's add a pivot chart so we can see the data. Simply click on the icon Pivot Chart and choose the default chart, a column chart. Now we can begin an exploratory analysis of the data. From the pivot table field list, add the field Printer Type. I'll just click on it. Excel knows to put it on the Axis Category section. Excel adds it to the pivot table. And let's make one small change to the pivot table to make it more descriptive. Click in the pivot table Then choose Design, click on the icon for Report Layout, and choose Show in Tabular Form. Now the names of the fields will appear in the pivot table itself. Printer type. Let's take a look at the chart now. We can see the averages for the 3 different types of printers, inkjet, laser, and dot matrix. And the chart shows the differences visually, which is good. Unfortunately, the default chart is just a little misleading. It looks like there's a big difference, but really the averages are all within about half a day. So let's update the scale on the y-axis. Click in the chart, choose the plus icon, axes, go to the right, click on More Options, click on the Y vertical axis, and we'll change the minimum to 0 and the maximum to 25. Now the difference doesn't look that large. Let's remove the chart axis control panel. Now let's calculate the average repair turnaround time. So I can take the repair turnaround time and drag it down to the value section and change it to value field settings, average. Now we really don't see big differences. They range from 2.48 to 2.65. Let's explore the data a little more. So let's remove printer type. And now let's try adding customer. I'll use the name instead of the account number because it's more descriptive. So I just click on customer name, and Excel adds it to the pivot table and to the chart. Now it looks like we can see some big differences. Let's try making the chart a little bit bigger. From the chart we can see that some customers, like Irwin Mortgage and Federal Tech Mortgage Brokers, receive their product back in 5 to 6 days on average, and others take more than 20 days, like O'Neill Motoring and Briggs Motoring Company. But also note that there are not big differences in the average of the repair turnaround time at the repair center. They're all about the same down here, between 3 and 4 days. So the difference must be in the actual transit time from the customer to the repair center. So let's review that logic again. If the repair times are all the same, but the total customer turnaround time is different, it means that the difference must lie in the transit of the product to and from the repair center. Let's try removing customer name and adding in customer location. To test this idea, we can see that some of the customers in Georgia seem to have the lowest total turnaround time, like Atlanta, Georgia, and Rome, Georgia. And those in North Carolina and Florida seem to have the highest times. We'll explore this idea in more detail in a later video. Next, we'll make a picture of the data with a histogram.